Welcome everyone. Thanks for being with us today. Just watching the numbers come up. So welcome. My name is Jackie. I'm coming to you from the College of Law, Queensland. And I'm also joined by my colleague, Marco. He's coming to you from the College of Law, Queensland too, but he's the relationship manager in Victoria. He's just up here visiting us today. So welcome everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll just wait till everyone's logged on and the numbers stabilised, and then we shall get going. So we really do thank you for joining us today. Today we're going to talk about practical legal training, all the information that you need for your next step in your legal journey. So right now you're probably sitting at law school, maybe nearly about to finish, maybe staring down your last semester. That's very, very excited. Maybe you've just attended your graduation ceremony or you're looking forward to doing so soon. So welcome. Practical legal training is the next step. Very different from university, so we'll go through all that information, but it's very exciting. So congratulations to all of you who are graduating either just now or very shortly. And welcome to all the people who are not in their final year. I love it when first years, second years, third years and other year students attend as well, because it's never too early to gather this information and it will help you in your decision-making process. So congratulations for being with us today, no matter where you are across our wide, probably rainy land. It is a little bit cold and drizzly outside of Brisbane. So I hope you're all keeping warm. So we might get started. So again, thank you very much for joining us today. We will be your practical legal training guides today. My name is Jackie and I'm the relationship manager in Queensland, but of course happy to talk to students all across Australia. I'm joined by my colleague Marco. He's the development and community engagement manager. It's a bit of a longer title. It essentially means the same thing. We both have, we think, don't tell anyone else, but we think we have the best jobs at the College of Law because we get to go out onto campus and also invite university students here. And it's our job to basically support you and help you get ready to make that transition from university into law school and get you ready for the profession. So we do secretly, we tell each other we do have the best jobs at the College of Law, Queensland. I'm sure everyone is jealous. So there is our contact details, our telephone numbers, our email addresses, and our LinkedIn. So I'm going to sit here and watch my phone, and hopefully it just blows up with all the LinkedIn requests that we have, because I'd love to be in touch with all of you. And that's a great way to keep in touch and ask questions that you might think of. But certainly, if any of you would like to have a one-on-one chat, Queenslanders, send me an email. We can make time. Victorians, please contact Marco and make a time to chat to him. If you're from any other states, get in touch with me and I will either answer your questions directly, or if it's something specific to your state, I can certainly put you in contact with the appropriate person. We are also joined today by our colleague Ellen in the background, and she'll be answering all of your questions in the chat. So if you think about anything as we go along, please do pop that in the chat and Ellen will be able to answer those questions. So before we get started, as we gather online for this presentation today, we recognise that many of us are on different lands of different traditional custodians. And Marco and myself, and indeed the College of Law, would like to acknowledge all of the traditional custodians of the lands we are all present on today, and any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are part of our audience either today or watching the recording at a later date. And you'll all get the recording, so stay tuned for that. And we would also like to pay our respects to each of your elders, past, present and emerging. So thank you to everyone for joining us today. All right, let's get started and get into the nitty-gritty. So, as I said, Marco and I are your guides today to help you to gather the information to support you on your way from law school to the profession. So that's a really exciting time in your life. So I love this analogy, Marco loves it too. You've built the boat, now we need to help you learn to sail that boat. So let's just think about university as giving you the skills to and the materials and the knowledge to build the boat. So it's teaching you the theoretical foundations of the law. So it's teaching you about the law. But at a lot of universities, they don't take it to the next level to add those practical skills on top of that, to actually teach you how to use the law or do the law or to sail that boat. But that's what practical legal training is all about. And it literally is exactly what it sounds like. It's the practical skills that you add to the solid foundation of law that you've learnt at university, and it will give you the confidence and the competence to step out into the legal profession, into that entry-level legal job, to basically know what you're doing, have some confidence as you go about your day. You, of course, will continue to learn and grow and develop and sharpen those skills pretty much each and every day that you're practicing. And the first 2 years especially will be a bit more of a steeper learning curve, but we also will continue to learn and grow and develop those skills throughout our careers in the law. But for now, we're getting you to that level where you are confident and competent to step out into the legal profession and sail that boat off into law land, which is very exciting. So I hope it's not too much of a drastic shock or any sort of a shock to everyone that you can't go out and call yourself a lawyer, call yourself a solicitor without being admitted into practice in the state in which you want to practice. So you do, of course, need that academic law degree. That's the first stepping stone. You cannot be a lawyer without that law degree. We do get a few questions on our Facebook page and our website from people saying how to become a lawyer without a law degree. Well, you can't. So it's essential that you have that law degree, but you can't be a lawyer or call yourself a lawyer just with that law degree. So you graduate from university and then you commence your practical legal training at the College of Law, and we add those practical skills. Now, a question we always get, isn't it, Marco, is how early can I start? Well, yes, you can come into the program a little bit before you finish law school, but you have to have completed your Priestley 11 core subjects. So if you're not quite sure exactly what those subjects are, it will be different for each of you. So you check your university law school website and they should list those Priestley 11 subjects for you. Once you finish those and you have no more than 2 electives, you can apply to the admitting body in your home state or the state in which you wish to do PLT and be admitted, and they will give you permission to come in early. So you can start a little bit early if you like, but a lot of people will finish their degree and then come to us for practical legal training. So you do that program. That will give you a qualification called your Graduate Diploma of Legal Practice. It is a postgraduate qualification that you can hang on the wall right next to your law degree in your office. Then you will have to prove yourself a fit and proper person. There's few hoops to jump through there. That process will be done directly with the admitting body in your state. And of course, it's different for each state. So we have those listed on our website, I believe. If you're not sure, we can point you in the right direction. Then you will stand up in a court of law in Queensland. It's in the Supreme Court of Queensland, and go through a beautiful admission ceremony, usually with a practitioner standing up and moving your admission. So you'll take the oath, you'll sign a solicitor's roll quite often, and then you'll be considered a lawyer. Although you should still wait till you receive your practicing certificate from your admitting body, which will come after that ceremony. Then you are a lawyer. You are a solicitor. You will then be qualified to work in legal roles, and also a lot of people work in non-legal roles still with that lawyer hat on as well. So it does give you that extra string to your bow. Even a lot of people do dual degrees, even if you're not working in a straight legal role per se. In some states, the role of solicitors and barristers is combined, but in Queensland, we do have separate arms of the profession. And in most states, well, in all states, you'll have to do another course which is the bar course, which is not teaching you how to pour drinks. It's actually teaching you how to be a barrister. And then once you've completed that course, but we're just going to stop at solicitor for now, because that's what we're going to talk about. The part from graduating from law school through to admission, which is practical legal training at the College of Law. So we're really excited to talk about that. Okay, we had a bit of a chat to a lot of our graduates late last year. Well, our friend Ellen was in charge of that, and we did lots of research and just sat down with lots of graduates from across all the states. And we also talked to some non-College of Law graduates as well. And it was just a really interesting conversation to see what were the benefits that they saw about coming to the College of Law and what you gain from practical legal training with us. The number one thing that came up time and time again was flexibility. So our program fits with your competing life commitments. So it might be that most people I think would be working, or you might have family or other obligations, you might play on sporting teams, you might have hobbies, you might have all these other things that you try and fit into life. So it's very flexible and it can fit in and around the rest of your life. We do really focus on practical skills. So we're teaching you those real world tasks, skills to be able to complete tasks at that graduate level, rather than just sort of teaching you more theoretical knowledge that you might have gotten out of your university degree. Both are important, but now is the time to put that practical level on top of your theoretical knowledge. We're also about setting you up for success. So we really do strive to get all of our graduates to a level of confidence and competence where they are stepping out into the legal profession and to be able to take on those graduate roles and know what you're doing, so that you still might be a little bit nervous, of course, and you're still learning all the time, and you'll have mentors within the jobs that you're doing, but you do have those base level, entry level skills, which is really important. We're also, this is what our graduates said, a really trusted practical legal training provider. We've been doing this for nearly 50 years, 20 in Queensland, but 50 overall across Australia. And that's all we do. We train lawyers. So we don't do undergraduate law degrees. We just do practical legal training. We also do a lot of CPD once you are an admitted practitioner. We also do master's level programs, very practical master's programs. We do the legal practice management course and mediation training, but that's all we do. We purely exist to train lawyers. We've been doing this for nearly 50 years and we're getting quite good at it. And we are also entrusted by over 30 leading law firms across Australia and all states to train their graduates. So if you do go into one of those firms, we will be embedded within the graduate program teaching those graduates. So basically, those are the top. We wanted to know what the top benefits that they saw, and that's pretty much what they were. Flexibility was the number one thing, and we're very much about working in and around. Obviously, you have to prioritise PLT and get it done, but all of our teaching staff are either former practitioners working with us full time, or they're still in practice. So they are working as lawyers, or they're working as barristers, they're working as mediators, working as arbitrators, and they know the demands of a legal role. So, you know, if you have to get called into court or get called into a matter and you can't sit an assessment on a certain day, just be reassured this is not the first time this has ever happened. We're very used to it. And all you need to do is get in contact with us and we can work with your deadlines to meet your PLT deadlines as well. So that's really important. Now, there's a few decisions to make at the start, but that's a great thing because each of you listening to this presentation will be in a unique circumstance. So the different decisions will make the course fit around your unique circumstance. So the first decision to make is whether you want to do the program 100% online or mixed. So if this was the olden days, BC, and that's before COVID, Marco and I would be saying, okay, it's a 15-week program or a 30-week program if you do it with us part-time. And week 1, you will come to us at the College of Law, either at one of our campuses or at one of our regional centres that we teach in, and you will do a week of face-to-face workshops in a classroom. That option is has returned. We had a group here in Brisbane last week. We're very excited to welcome them back. So if you know that face-to-face learning in that classroom is important, and many people who have studied online like to come and do the face-to-face option because they haven't had that connection through their university degree and they want to meet people and network, you would do week 1 at the College of Law, wherever state that you're in, and then the remainder of it is working through the coursework online and communicating and submitting work online. However, of course, COVID happened and we did, you know, to use a buzzword, we all pivoted and we brought that week 1 online. So it's a sort of a different kind of online. It's via Zoom in a classroom, but not sort of like this where we're just here on screen talking to you directly. We're all on the screen. We're physically there on camera because we have to put our hand on our heart and promise the admitting body in your state that you were there in all of our workshops, and we have to tick you off for each and every workshop like we do in person. But we send you to breakout rooms, we do group work, we do the same sorts of things, we're just doing it on screen. So week 1 is full-time, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 in either a face-to-face capacity or via Zoom. We do have a night option, which I'll explain as shortly as well. So that's the first thing. Do you want to do that week 1 in the classroom, or do you want to do that week 1 online? And it might depend on when you're ready to start. But we do that blended thing in 19 different locations around Australia. The second decision to make is, do you want to study with us part-time, which is 30 weeks, so 1 week full-time and then the remaining 29 weeks. If you're working, we recommend this option. Or if you are working part-time or not working, you might like to do the full-time option, which is 15 weeks. So again, 1 week face-to-face, so you can't be working that week. You need to give us your undivided attention between 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, and then you'll do the remaining program in a full-time capacity. So it's pretty much the part-time is just sort of at half that speed. So that's your decision to make. And then do you want to do a day or night option? So what that means is just for week 1. So in some states, we take week 1 and instead of doing it Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 full-time, we carve that up into about 12 different workshops. And in Queensland, we do that Tuesdays and Thursday nights at 6 o'clock. So different states will have different nights and they'll give you the schedule, of course. And so that's online via Zoom, just from the comfort of your office or your home, 2 nights a week for 6 weeks, and then you'll do the rest of the course online. So that's kind of an exciting option if you've just started a new job and you can't be away from your desk, or you have potentially got big cases on or big matters on, you can't be away from your desk. That's a great option for you. But no matter which one you choose, we have about 150 intakes across Australia. I say about because the exact number on every given day can change because when we get demand, we add more courses. So we've already added at least 2 in Queensland this year. So start when you're ready. If you miss an intake, there's no waiting 6 months. You'll in some states it's every month, but pretty much I think the longest wait in any state, I know in Queensland it's about 4 or 5 weeks, maybe 6 weeks at the latest. But most months we've got 3 intakes. We've got an evening intake, a part-time, and a full-time intake this month. So it's you know, rolling courses. You're not waiting till that next semester. And I mentioned that we do that week 1 face-to-face if you choose to do the blended option in 19 different locations. So you can see that we are spread out across this wide, beautiful land of ours. So most of the time people will do it in the CBD office, but as you can see, a lot of the states do have, I know there's a Geelong one coming up in Victoria, and we have just had our regionals here in Queensland, so those will run again at the end of the year. And you can see that New South Wales has Kensington, Parramatta and Wollongong as well, so that's quite exciting. lots of different locations, or online, which is the 20th location. Now I'm going to hand over, take a breath and hand over to my colleague, Marco, who is the Relationship Manager for you Victorians, but he also likes talking to students from across Australia, so please connect with us both. So I'll hand over to you, Marco, to talk about the 3 course pillars of practical legal training at the College of Law.
Thanks very much, Jackie. And I want to thank everyone who's been asking questions along the way. I've been doing my best to help where I can, and same with Ellen. It's important to note when you ask questions about eligibility to enroll in the PLT or become an admitted lawyer, this is the kind of information you're going to need to investigate a little bit further with your local admitting authority. So for example, if it's in Queensland, it's the Queensland Legal Admissions Board. It's the same thing with the Victorian Legal Admissions Board, and you'll have one in New South Wales. So whatever information we can provide in terms of general responses, please treat that as general, but you'll have to do a little bit more investigation on those websites for the local admitting authorities to get that exact and accurate, up-to-date information. But we can do our best to help you here when it comes to answering questions about the PLT specifically. So I want to first thank Jackie for doing a wonderful job on the introduction. I am working for the Melbourne office, but I do get a chance to come down to Brisbane and hang out with the Queensland team where I get the opportunity, and I really enjoy that. And so I decided I'd be hanging out here, Jackie, for our team effort for today's national webinar. And Jackie did a wonderful job of introducing you to those 4 major benefits of the college's PLT, which is the kind of feedback we received from our PLT students and grads when we do surveys with them. And Jackie did a great job of speaking to you initially about those flexibility learning options that we have as that first major benefit of the college's PLT. And that second major benefit is all about the practical skills, which is what I'll get a chance to speak about. And I might start off by saying that I am myself a lawyer. I also completed the PLT back in 2010. And so I know where you've been, and I think I've a good idea of where you're going next. So hopefully I'll be able to do a great job of explaining how that the PLT coursework takes you from a law student to a lawyer. So the first thing to talk about is the fact that our college PLT program is designed to emulate what lawyers do in actual legal practice. And I know that to be the case because I'm a lawyer in actual legal practice, so I know. And when we talk about the college's PLT, as Jackie mentioned, there's 3 course pillars that are outlined here in the slides. Now, the first 2, coursework and work experience, they are mandatory across all PLT providers in Australia. However, this third component, continuing professional education, is really unique to the College of Law, but it's something practicing lawyers need to do, including myself, every year annually. And that's why it forms part of the college's PLT, because our PLT is designed to emulate what lawyers do in actual practice. So I'll get a chance to speak to each one of these shortly. Jackie, if I can just ask you to move to the next slide. So Jackie's going to help me along as she's got control over the slides. So what I really like about this slide is it's a general introduction into the format of our coursework. And the diagram that we have here really neatly explains or illustrates how that process works. And there are some similarities to university, but as Jackie mentioned, there's a big difference between what you're going to do at university and what you're going to do as part of the college's PLT. The first thing we do is start you off on the learning process. So right now, as university students, you have access to an online learning portal with your respective unis. It's the same thing with the College of Law. We use Canvas Instructure as our online learning portal. And just like at university, the online learning portal with the college, it has a lot of online resources available to help you along with your coursework. So for example, there'll be reading materials, there'll be video guides and tutorials. And also very importantly, you're going to get access to what we call practice papers. These are wonderful documents. They've been prepared by senior lawyers in practice who are employed by the College of Law. And these practice papers will be things similar to this: draft court documents, draft wills, draft leases, and things of that nature. So documents that lawyers use in actual legal practice. And the point of these practice papers is to be a guide to help you when you're doing the legal drafting components of the coursework. And so this is where you get to have a lot of fun. So you're going to have this opportunity to do all this pre-reading once you're enrolled in the PLT. through the online learning portal. And then we're going to put you into the full swing of things where you're actually going to start putting everything into practice. So you're going to practice all the things that lawyers do on a day-to-day basis. And Jackie did a wonderful job of introducing you to how our course structure is designed in terms of, let's say, if you're doing the 15-week full-time coursework, you'll have the first week as your intensive. And we called that the Lawyer Skills Week. And I know Jackie's briefly spoken about it, but I'll just add a little bit more information as it relates specifically to the coursework. So that 1 week intensive is essentially a 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, emulates a typical workday. And this is where students get to have a lot of fun. This is your opportunity to do group activities with all your peers who are part of your cohort for the intake that you're in. And these group activities will include a lot of role-playing stuff like mock client interviewing, mock negotiations and alternative dispute resolution, mock mooting, but you also have specific course sessions on risk management and problem solving, legal drafting, and you'll even have a specific session on well-being, because that is essentially important now. It's always been the case that it's been important for lawyers and law students, but particularly now as we're going through the COVID era. And so once you complete that first week intensive, you do the remainder of the coursework online, but it remains entirely interactive again, because you're doing it through the learning portal. And where you're going to get to have a great deal of learning, which is where you're going to get a lot of upskilling, is when you're going to have your opportunity to have one-on-one discussions with your PLT supervisor. So that'll include the feedback that they give you, which is going to be very different to what you get at the university level, and I'll explain that shortly. And you're also going to have one-on-one tailored review sessions with them about specific aspects of the course. Jackie, if I could ask you to move to the next slide. So as I mentioned, the college's PLT program structure is all about your practical skills. It's practice focus. It's what lawyers do in actual legal practice. So I mentioned in that diagram, that loop that you do, the formula that we have about learning and practicing and getting feedback in review sessions. So as I mentioned, you're going to learn skills for life, and it's going to start with those role-playing activities and some of the drafting that you do as part of Lawyer Skills Week. And then for the remainder of the coursework, you're going to get a chance to practice the day-to-day stuff that lawyers do in order to master the day-to-day stuff. And that'll include things like preparing court documents, draft wills, leases, and for example, you're going to prepare a letter of advice to a client. So again, this is practicing the day-to-day stuff that lawyers do in actual practice. And what's wonderful and very different to what you're going to get at your university experience when it comes to feedback is the level of engagement and interaction you're going to have with your PLT supervisor. They're always a senior lawyer that's engaged by the college. And so when you're getting feedback at university, you know how you get grades, you know, like an A, B, C, or something like that? We don't have that at the college. As part of the PLT, the kind of feedback you get is the feedback that a junior lawyer would receive from their senior lawyer in actual legal practice. So it's constructive feedback. It's there to help you gauge your level of understanding in terms of an activity or submission that you participated in and what you need to do to level up to get a better understanding. So let me use me as an example for what I used to do when I was practicing at my first junior lawyer role was with Gaydon's Lawyers. And I started off in the litigation team, and then I rotated to the property team, and then went back to litigation because it's what I really enjoyed. I've been in civil litigation for 10 years. And so an example of what I did as a junior lawyer is I'd prepare a draft letter of advice to a client. And what I would do is I'd first submit it to my senior associate to have a look. And the senior associate would come back with feedback like this. Mark, you did a great job on this. You need to explore this a little bit further. Potentially, you might have gotten the law wrong on this one particular issue. Can you revisit that? So I'd get an opportunity to get this constructive feedback from the senior associate. I'd review it, I'd do a little bit more research, and then I'd resubmit it. And then that second version of the letter of advice, the senior associate, if she liked it, she'd tick the box, and it would go to the partner of the team. That's the kind of interaction you're going to have with your PLT supervisor. So they're going to come back to you, not with grades, but with feedback that's constructive, but in a supportive environment, and in a way for you to know where you have your strengths and some areas of development and issues you may need to readdress. For example, if you needed to resubmit that advice, just to get it right. So that's just one example. And then once you've had this ability to have the feedback from your supervisor, you're going to get to do what's something I consider to be great in terms of mimicking what actual lawyers do in practice. And that's your one-on-one review sessions with your PLT supervisor. Now, at the college, we treat those as constructive conversations because that's what they are, conversations. So, for example, let's say you're, as part of the coursework, you're going to have to do corporations and commercial law. And you're going to submit some assessments, like tasks involved with that part of the coursework. And then you're going to have the chance to speak to your supervisor about that particular subject. And what you'll do is organize a time to have a review session. You can do it face-to-face at the college campus in your state, or you could do it online virtually, really up to you and the supervisor. And what you're going to do is sit down and have a conversation. And the supervisor is going to ask you questions about your level of understanding in terms of that aspect of the coursework. And they might even give you a hypothetical scenario. They might say, well, look, imagine a client walks in the door, this is their issue. What kind of advice would you give them? And this is exactly what happens in actual legal practice. And again, let's use me as an example. So I would often, as a junior lawyer, get my senior supervising lawyer to drop by my office, and they'd give me a paper file, because that's what you did back in those days. Drop the file on my desk and say, Marco, look, we've opened up this new file. It's passed all the conflict checks. The assistant's printed out all the relevant documents we have. I need you to review the file. Tell me what it's about, where we're going next, and what other documents we need to collect. So generally speaking, I get only 30 minutes to review this file, and then I go see my supervising senior lawyer and have a chat to them about what's going on in the file and what we need to do next. So this is something what you can anticipate with your PLT supervisor as part of those one-on-one conversations. But the best part is that not only are they constructive, they're in a supportive environment, because it's simulating what happens in actual legal practice. It takes that edge off from the pressure you have in actual legal practice, but nonetheless prepares you for those exact kind of conversations you're going to have with your senior lawyer once you're a junior lawyer in actual legal practice. Jackie, if I can ask you to move to the next slide. So I've spent all this time talking to you now about the coursework itself, and I mentioned how that's one of the mandatory components of all PLTs, but so is the work experience component. And the reason that's the case is work experience is so fundamental to your professional training and growth. And it's for that reason that we treat this part of the PLT so very seriously. But at the same time, we do recognize that we have students with competing life obligations. And it may mean that it's a little bit more difficult for them to meet all the requirements for the work placement. And so we have two flexible options available for them. So let me speak about all three of our options now. The first option is the standard option, and it's the most popular one. It's 75 days of work placement. However, for the very vast majority of our students, they don't end up having to do the full 75 days. And let me explain why. So a lot of our students who are enrolled in the PLT, even before they enroll, they've got pre-existing work experience in a legal setting. For example, they might be a legal assistant or a paralegal in a law firm. Or once they're enrolled in the PLT, they might be a graduate in a law firm. So they're undertaking the PLT as part of that graduate program. Or they might end up still being a paralegal or legal assistant in a law firm while they're doing their PLT. And what that means is you're able to use all of those time that you have in your work experience, both before you enroll in the PLT and as part of your PLT, to claim credit towards that 75 days. And just to give you an example of the kind of things you can claim, if I can just ask you, Jackie, to move to the next slide. So let's say that you've completed some clerkships before you enroll in the PLT, or you're a legal assistant or a paralegal. Maybe you volunteer at a community legal center, you have a placement with legal aid. Perhaps you assist barristers and chambers, or you did what I did when I was doing the PLT. You were a judge's associate. So again, using me as an example, I completed the PLT back in 2010, and I was a judge's associate at the time I was doing that. But I've been working for the judge for a couple of months before I actually enrolled in the PLT. And I was able to use all those months of pre-existing work experience that I had before I even enrolled in the PLT to claim as credit towards my PLT work placement component. And so, Jackie, if I can just ask you to move back to that earlier slide. And so this is why this standard option of 75 days is the most popular one with our students, because so many of them have this pre-existing work experience that they're able to claim up to as credit for the 75 days. And the way it works is you can claim up to 60 days, and it's for up to 2 years. So let's say you've been in a paralegal or legal assistant role since 2021, and you're going to graduate this year in 2022. Likely you'll be able to claim it towards, if you're enrolling in the PLT in 2023, you'll likely be able to claim that. Again, as long as it's one of those work experience types that we've mentioned in that other slide. And one of the things I encourage you to do now is visit the college's website to learn more about the work experience component, because one of the things you'll need to do is fill out a form where you're able to take it to your supervisors for them to sign off on the fact that you've been working as a paralegal, legal assistant, and the kind of work you've been doing. But as I'm just having a general chat about it now, definitely go onto our website to get a lot more accurate details about that. Now, as I mentioned, we do have some students with competing life obligations, and it may make it difficult for them to meet that 75-day requirement. And to give you an example, some students, we have their primary caregivers, and they also have full-time jobs in non-legal roles. So they've got a lot of competing obligations there. And of course, they're going to need that full-time job if they're paying the mortgage, if they're paying the rent, and all the expenses. And for that reason, we have two flexible options available for students with those competing life obligations. The first one is the clinical experience module. This is where you only do 15 days of work experience, but you undertake an additional 6-week program in lieu of that important 60 days you're missing out on. And let me just add one more thing about this slide in that 15 days. So this clinical experience module with 15 days of actual hands-on work experience and the 6-week program, that applies to all states and territories in Australia, except for WA. So if you're joining us from WA and you want to get admitted as a legal practitioner in WA, where it says 15 days, just switch that to 25 days for you. And instead of a 6-week program, it's 1 week less. It's 5 weeks because you're doing the extra 10 days of work experience. But otherwise, for all other states and territories, this is correct. Now, at the college, we also have a third option. It's called the in-practice component. This is where there's no days of actual work placement. But let me just say that this is something that's only come about as a result of COVID. And it's here for this year, and it may not be here next year. So we have to get confirmation from the regulator about whether that's going to remain. So essentially, imagine that time when we first had the initial lockdowns with the outbreak of COVID. You had social isolation, you were working from home. It was very difficult for our PLT students to find work placement. And for that reason, all the regulators across Australia decided they needed to have a viable option for PLT students. And so they came up with this idea to have the in-practice component with no days of work placement. But of course, if you're not going to get any work placement, you have to find some substitute for it. And so with the college, it's an additional 8-week online program. But very importantly, you get one-on-one sessions with a mentor. And this is a senior lawyer that's hired by the college. So you're not going to necessarily get that hands-on experience that you would if you were in a work placement. But at the same time, you're going to get an experience that does its best to simulate or emulate what lawyers do in actual legal practice. And that's why you're going to have those one-on-one mentoring sessions, the kind that a junior lawyer would have with their senior supervising lawyer. So that's what I have to say about work experience for the moment. Jackie, if I can get you to switch to the next slides after this, please.
For a couple of questions live. I've just been monitoring the chat. Angela's just asking if it is a little bit confusing. The standard option, Marco's talking about 75 and 60, sort of, just to clarify that. The full standard option, Andrew, is 75 days in total. 60 days can be, it doesn't have to be, it can be completed. A maximum of 60 days can be done in the 2 years prior to. So let's just say you were in that group starting last week in Queensland. If you look back to July 2020 to July 2022, if you can find 60 days at however many different employers, it doesn't matter, you can claim that. The final 15 days has to be done during your PLT coursework, or you've actually got 2 years after completing your coursework to commence that. So you can see you've actually got 4 years. Now, you can't receive your completion certificate till that work experience is done. So the quicker you get it done, the quicker that you will complete PLT. But hopefully that explains that. Ellen's just put some further information in there for you as well. The other question that we had, which I thought was a really great one, Marco, is where can your PLT be done? We've got someone that's on the border of New South Wales and Queensland, and she wants to be admitted in New South Wales, but she's working across the border at the Tweed, somewhere in Queensland, you can actually do your work experience anywhere in Australia. It doesn't matter. So if you are one of those border areas, it doesn't matter, as long as you're being supervised by an Australian lawyer who can, practitioner who can sign off your forms. It does not matter. The work experience is not state by state. So anyway, back over to you. So we'll go.
Thanks very much, Jackie, and that wonderful responses to everything. And sorry, I should have been clearer. With that 60 days that you can claim towards that 75 days as the standard option, if you can claim the full 60, it means you only need to do 15 days. If you can claim that full 60. But again, this is a sign off you have to get from your supervisor, and that supervisor has to hold a practicing certificate. And Jackie's quite right. Like, you can take up to an additional 2 years to complete everything you want, but more than likely you're going to get that 15 days of work experience if you claim up to the 60 very easily within a short time span. So Jackie, correct me if I'm wrong, and Ellen, please step in. My understanding from my chats with PLT students and graduates is they complete the entire program well within 6 months. And that includes the coursework and the work experience component. Yeah, so
there's exceptions to every rule, but on the whole, we've just got another question from Tenken who's asking, what if I'm supervised by a non-Australian lawyer? That's a great question. If you have overseas, now the final 15 days has to be in Australia. However, you can claim the up to the 60 days beforehand from overseas. However, it needs to fit the rules. It also needs to be in a common law country. So you'll have to investigate what country you're in. Yes,
and I think we should, Jackie and Ellen, hopefully you can help with this. We've got a guide to work experience, the work placement, and perhaps if someone can just put a link to the guide in the chat box, I think that'll help answer your questions. So Jackie and I are going to do our best to answer your questions as accurately as we can, but because we've only got the 1 hour, we're going to have to just sometimes go as quickly as we can through everything and not be able to give you the full details that we can. But all those full details will be either available on our website, or you'll be able to look at the admissions board, like the website of the admissions board in your local state, to get even more precise details about, eligibility requirements. But we just might move on, Jackie, because of time constraints. And the last component of the college's PLT is continuing professional education. As I mentioned, the first two, work experience and coursework, that's mandatory for all PLT providers. But the continuing professional education component is very unique to the college. And the reason that's the case is, again, what we do with the college is emulate what lawyers do in actual practice. So I myself, in order for me to renew my practicing certificate every year, I have to undertake 10 hours of continuing professional education. So every practicing lawyer across Australia needs to do this. It's mandatory. And because it's mandatory for lawyers, we incorporate it as part of our PLT. But there's a big difference. So as lawyers, I have to undertake, for example, continuing professional education in things like trust accounting and ethics. I've got to attend conferences and seminars, or I present at them to gain those 10 hours of continuing professional education. But we make that very easy and interactive for you with the college through our continuing professional education component, because we give you 10 hours of self-paced online interactive modules, and they're focused on the latest emerging trends in the law. So I think for all of us, we're now well aware that technology is revolutionizing so much of the way we do things, but that also includes the practice of law. And so our online interactive modules are heavily focused on legal tech and innovation, but we also have components there for business skills. And that's because once you get admitted as a lawyer, you're initially going to start off as an employee lawyer. So you get a practicing certificate where you're allowed to work for someone as an employee. And you have to do that for 2 years as part of your supervised legal training. And then thereafter, you're able to actually apply to undertake what's known as the legal practice management course, which you can do with the College of Law. And it's to upskill you. It's to take you from an employee lawyer to a lawyer that's allowed to manage their own legal practice. So if you want to manage your own legal practice, you're going to have to do this additional training that includes business skills. And so again, we introduce that early to you, so you get an idea of the kind of important business skills that all lawyers need to have. So that forms part of our legal tech and business skills series. That is the continuing professional education component. And the great thing is this, as Jackie mentioned, when you complete your PLT, you get a graduate diploma of legal practice. With the college, you get this additional certificate of legal tech and business. This is something you can highlight to your employers. You can put it on your CV to say, hey, I've got this additional knowledge and skill set in legal tech and business skills. And that's going to give you the edge. And I think that's just about it for me, Jackie, in terms of this set of slides that I'm talking about.
Thanks very much, Marco. And Ellen is busily, her fingers are flying in the chat box, and she's been answering questions 101. And she will also be downloading all those questions after this presentation, and she'll be getting back to people directly if any of the questions weren't answered during this hour. So thanks for that, Ellen. Now, we've sort of talked about the 3 pillars, and I love that way of explaining PLT. So picture your name at the top of a page in our database on day 1 of PLT. You need to tick off coursework. So there's 3 blank circles: coursework, work experience, CPD, and you need a tick, a tick, a tick to get that completion certificate. But it is very flexible. You do your coursework over either 15 or 30 weeks. Your work experience, some of it can be done during or after PLT. So some people do all their coursework and then do their work experience. Some people do it at the same time. It's absolutely your choice. Depends what else is going on. And then that CPD can be done during the coursework, or you have got a little bit of time afterwards. But remember, 3 ticks is what's needed for that completion certificate to get your graduate diploma of legal practice, and then move on to the admission process. So make sure that you're just keeping those deadlines in mind most of the time, you know, and we'll do our best to support you to get through by those deadlines. So we do have a great support team. Great segue into this slide. So we have our PLT guides / relationship managers. So I'm the Queensland representative, and Marco's in Victoria, but we have people in each state, not quite our equivalents, but other people that do the same work that we do in this space. So there's people that you can chat to in every state, but we also have an amazing team that Ellen looks after, which is our student support team. So this is a team of people who are in Sydney, answering the phones, answering emails, answering the Facebook messages that we get. So if you've got questions and you're not quite sure, especially if there are those sort of admin type things, we've got a whole team that's there to support you now in the lead up to enrolling with the College of Law, but also once you are here, if you need to change from full-time to part-time, or if you just need to rearrange, like you can't do your exam on that day, or you find, you know, your review session on that day, you need to sort of push it. We have makeup days. You might want to push it back to that, or anything going on that you need help with. Our student services team are there to assist. When you're doing the course, you also will have your online mentors, so our teaching staff, our lecturers within that space. They're the senior practitioners that Marco was telling you about, mentoring you and guiding you through each individual subject, and they are who you would turn to if you need, not quite sure about this task, can I have some further information, where do I find this? You know, and they'll be giving you feedback on your work as well. You know, you might need them to push out a submission date for a task by a couple of days. So they are there to get you through each subject and help you with the individual feedback as well. Once you're a College of Law student, you also get access to our amazing colleagues. We're so lucky to have them, Susan and Ruth. So Susan's in that third circle there under Career Coach. So she's based out of Melbourne. We've also got her wonderful colleague Ruth, and they, I guess, job share. We have Susan 3 days a week and Ruth 2 days a week, and they did about 500 one-on-one sessions with our students last year. They help with interview prep, resume reviews, building your personal brand. They also do a bunch of free employability skills webinars that are available to you as students now. So follow the College of Law on Facebook and you'll see when those things are happening. We've got a couple of good ones coming up. We also have a jobs board. So if you're struggling to find work when you're doing PLT, jump onto our jobs board and connect with the employers that are putting up jobs specifically for PLT students in your state. You can sort by state, which is kind of cool. We also, of course, have our alumni connections in each state as well, and different states will do different events and connections with within the alumni of that state. So lots of support along the way. Don't suffer in silence. If anything is happening throughout your course or you've got questions beforehand, reach out to someone. If you're not sure who to contact, go through and ring through to, well, ask your lecturer probably first up, or call through to the College of Law in your state, and they will be able to assist you with who exactly you need to talk to. So just a little bit of general information about the College of Law. Thing I mentioned before, over 30 law firms across Australia trust the College of Law to exclusively train their graduates. So we're very proud to be in those cooperative relationships with those firms and be training their grads. Over nearly 77% of students Australia-wide, so that's a national figure, it's a little bit different per state, choose the College of Law. So graduates coming out of law school are choosing the College of Law. So we are the #1 provider in Australia, which is great. It means if you do up and move to another state, you're working alongside lawyers who've essentially done the same course that you've done, and it's sort of all the same and equal. And as I said, we've been training lawyers since 1974. That is a long time ago now. And we're really good at it. We're really good at it. That is why we exist. We exist for solely to train lawyers. It's our passion and our reason for being and getting up in the morning. So this is what we do. So no, we would invite you to become part of the College of Law family. A question that we often get is how much does it cost? And that's a very important question. Now, it does depend on those work experience options. So we like to offer different options in our work experience, but we also don't, you know, no one's subsidizing anyone else. You are paying for exactly what you need. So if you are doing the standard option because you've got a graduate role and you're not doing any of the other shorter work experience options, you just do the core program, and that is $9,640 for Australian citizens and permanent residents, or $13,910 for international students. Now, if you are an Australian citizen or a permanent resident, you can, well, the fee, if you're eligible for it, the fee help option is available. That's the postgraduate equivalent of HECS. It's a different pot of money for your postgrad. So you can defer that payment. If you are going to do the clinical experience module, which is that 5-week, 6 weeks in most places option, which is an extra subject, or it's 5 weeks in Western Australia. Western Australians, you will add 1,460, and everyone else you'll add 1,530 because it's a 1 week longer program. And of course, you can add that onto your fee help. If you're doing the in practice component option, which is just available for this year, so far as we know, that's a 8-week program and an extra $2,000 on top of your program. So standard people, you're just paying for your program. Clinical experience people, you're paying for your program plus your clinical experience module. IPC people, you're paying for your program and the IPC. So see how it's just sort of you're paying for what you need and what you choose to do. So and of course the fee help is available. So hopefully that explains that. A little bit of summary of what happened in 2021, which seems like a long time ago now that it's July. We delivered over 100, this is nationally, 180 PLT programs across 7 Australian states and territories. By the way, Marco, there is a Tasmanian person online for you. Marco looks after Tasmania, so yes, he might be the person to get in touch with and just chat about PLT options for Tassie. We assisted over 5,000 people to enter the profession nationally. We delivered our program in over 19 locations, 20 if you count online. And Ruth and Susan were extremely busy, and they did over 425 one-on-one career consultations for our students. And we had nearly 300, or just a little bit under 300, senior lawyers across the profession nationally mentoring our students as lecturers. So can you even imagine how many years of experience that was? We offered 11 free careers webinars with 31 guest speakers. These are available to you at any time, so please tap in. You can register and receive the recording afterwards, so that they are really fantastic, really great information. Over 1,000 jobs on the job board across Australia. Now, one thing that we probably haven't mentioned is if you complete practical legal training at the College of Law and then come back later to do your Masters, I know that sounds a bit overwhelming right now, but you'll think about it a couple of years down the track. We'll give you credit towards 2 of the electives, which means an 8-subject Masters becomes 6. You can do that a subject at a time in a year and a half, which is excellent. It's a great way to step up the ladder career-wise or move towards specialist accreditation. We also are the Australian provider for the preparation program for admission as a solicitor into the UK. And we also are celebrating 6 years with the Centre for Legal Innovation, which Marco is going to tell you more about because it's a fabulous thing unique to the College of Law.
Thanks very much, Jackie. And such a great job speaking to students about all the wonderful benefits of the college and all the things that we've done for our students and our graduates who are alumni. And as Jackie mentioned, you know, you can do the PLT with us, but much more. So we have programs for lawyers as well. One of them is the applied law programs. This is where you can get a master's in applied law. And we have so many subjects to choose from. And if you complete the PLT, you get credits towards that. I mentioned earlier, we have this legal practice management course for when you're ready to step up, to go from an employee solicitor to one that manages your own practice. So a lot of great benefits with the college, and I'm really glad that we're video recording this so everyone gets a chance to review it at a later time and, you know, get a chance to really think about all those wonderful benefits and how they can apply to you. And this is another exceptional benefit of the College of Law is our Center for Legal Innovation. So this is an innovation-focused think tank at the college. It's comprised of college staff, but we also have a whole host of external lawyers from law firms and legal tech startups that contribute to the center. We've got this wonderful resources hub with all these online resources. So there's videos, there's podcasts. And for those of you that are really into legal tech and innovation, even at your early stages, law students, we have something called the Legalpreneurs Lab. And this is for collaborative learning community for those with an interest in reinventing, innovating, and transforming legal practice. As I said, legal practice has changed so much since I first started, and it's being underpinned by revolution in technology. So this is why we are so focused on the future, and we want to future-proof our students. And for that reason, we give all students free membership to the Center for Legal Innovation. This is your opportunity to get so many wonderful resources online, to learn so much about what's going on in the legal tech space. And this is where the college really stands out, because we are at the forefront of the latest emerging trends in legal practice, particularly as it relates to legal tech and innovation. And what this means is that if you're enrolled in our PLT, you can be very well rest assured that you're getting all the knowledge and skills you need to excel not only today as a lawyer, but well into the future. And if you recall, I mentioned how as part of our continuing professional education component of the PLT, we've got all of those interactive modules that you do for legal tech and innovation. So this comes from here. This is a wonderful resource that's available to you now as a student, and this is your ability to get an edge when it comes to future legal practice. Now, if I can ask you to move to the next slide, please, Jackie.
Absolutely.
Thank you. One of the things that Jackie's done a wonderful job of explaining, and that we really wish to highlight to all of those who are listening in, is the college is all about flexibility. We're here to give you choices. So you can study 100% online, or you can do a blended learning option where you have some face-to-face. If you wanted to do our PLT, you can do it full-time at 15 weeks or part-time at 30 weeks. And as Jackie mentioned, if you want to do it part-time, you can do evening courses as well. We do our best to cater to the needs of our students. And as I was talking about that work experience component, you have the 3 options. You can do that standard option of 75 days. And again, you can claim up to 60 days of that 75 days from any work experience you've had for 2 years prior to enrolling in the PLT. Or if you've got competing life obligations and you need a little bit more flexibility, Well, you can do one of our other two options that we were talking about with the clinical experience module, which is a blend of some additional coursework and 15 or 25 days of work experience, depending on the state you're in. Or you can choose to do no hands-on work experience at all and just focus on the coursework. And that's fine as well. As we mentioned, the coursework is designed to emulate what lawyers do in actual legal practice. So Jackie, if I can ask you to move to the next slide. And so, as Jackie mentioned, we really care about what our grads and students think about our PLT. And we always want to know, what are the reasons you picked doing the PLT with us? And Ellen from our marketing team does such a wonderful job of collecting this information and sharing it with all of us at the college. And Jackie and I are one of the first people to get access to that information. And so what we've done this slide is put together some considerations for you when you're actually ready to enroll in the PLT. Some of you may be ready to enroll this year. For others, it may be next year or a little bit later on. But now's the time to start thinking about what you need, what suits you when it comes to doing the PLT. So the kind of things we would suggest you think about when you're ready to enroll in the PLT is, what are the regular intakes like? So for example, with the college, as Jackie mentioned, we've got intakes every single month. So if you go on our website, irrespective of which state you're in, you'll see that we've got intake from June of this year all the way to June of next year, every single month, because we're all about that flexibility. Also, can you study your way? Do you have to do full-time or can you do part-time? And if you do part-time, can you do evening classes like you can at the college? And how long does it take you to complete that program? So as Jackie mentioned, if it's full-time with us, it's 15 weeks of coursework, and then you just do the work experience component as well. And that can fit in during that 15 weeks, or it can be afterwards. It's really up to you, but generally speaking, you can get it done within 6 months. Very importantly, ask your friends and colleagues. So if you know law students who have graduated, who've completed the PLT, who are working now as lawyers, speak to them about what their experiences were like doing the PLT. If you're working in a law firm now, speak to those who are junior lawyers who've just recently undergone the PLT experience and get a little bit more information from them. One of the things that Jackie and I do is when we're dealing with PLT students and having our interactions with them, once they finish the PLT, we ask them to become college ambassadors and speak to law students across universities about, what did they really enjoy about the PLT and why did they choose our PLT? And often enough, what we hear from our ambassadors is, well, I enrolled in the college's PLT because I had a friend who did it at work, and they said it was a great experience. It really prepared them for entry into legal practice as a junior lawyer. But again, these are skills you take with you for life, including those practice papers that you're going to stick with you for the rest of your career. And one of the things that we consider exceptionally important for all PLT students is, are you attending a PLT with the local campus, with local content and local practitioners? So Jackie mentioned we've got these 19 different locations you can do the PLT across all of Australia. And we are the largest provider in Australia. But if you're going to study your PLT in Queensland, you're going to get Queensland practitioners delivering Queensland specific content that's relevant to that jurisdiction. The same with New South Wales and Victoria and all the other states. This isn't the case with all PLT providers. So it's just something we want you to be mindful of, because we don't want you to be surprised if it doesn't end up being the case for you. But I think that's pretty much it for me on this slide. Jackie, thank you.
And of course, number 6 is choose the College of Law.
There you go.
I always like to throw that in as a little joke. That's your 6 to do point. I'm just mindful of the time. We're going to flick through and just say goodbye. Now, I might be on this slide for long, but you can quickly scan that. That'll bring you up the PLT handbook. Now, Ellen's going to send you a lovely email with that with a link to that anyway. So if you missed it, we will get that to you in the follow-up email. So don't worry about that too much. Now, connect with the College of Law. We have this was a lot of information. So I hope we haven't confused anyone. But if we have, we are here to clarify it. So first point of call would be our website, collaw.edu.au/PLT. And then you can read more about the coursework, you can read more about the work experience options, you can read more about CPD, depending on where you would like the answers. We have so many events happening as well with our careers team, with Marco and myself. with other people within the College of Law. So follow us on your social media of choice, Facebook, Instagram. I think Facebook and LinkedIn are probably the best ones, but we also do Instagram, and I believe we do the Twitter as well. So choose your poison and follow us. And Marco and I would love to connect with you on LinkedIn. And I was accepting a bunch of requests, Marco, so check your phone straight after this while you were talking. So that was really exciting. And thanks for all the lovely messages, everyone, as well. So if you missed it, my name is Jackie Owen, and my colleague Marco's based in Victoria. So I'm the Queensland Relationship Manager, Marco's the Victorian Relationship Manager. However, we are here to support students across the country, and we can certainly put you in contact with the right people within your state if you've got a state-specific question, or you just want to meet the people in your state. We can certainly introduce you to the Executive Director in your home state. I think the best way to get in contact with us, as Marco and I are on campus a lot, is to send us an email, set up a time to chat. More than happy to give you a ring and chat one-on-one. And please blow up our phones this afternoon with, or whenever you're watching this, with a LinkedIn request. That's my handle there, and I've had Marco edit his, especially for this presentation. So there it is. We encourage you to keep in contact. We have a whole week of seminars coming up. So Ellen will send invitations to those as well. It's the first week in August. It's called Careers Academy, and we've pretty much got at least 10 presentations happening across 5 days. So we invite you to return and enjoy some of those presentations. But we'll be in touch if there's any questions that we haven't answered. But thank you very much for joining us, either right now as we're speaking live, or watching this recording, which will be sent to each and every one of you later when we get it downloaded and organised. And we'll also send you a couple of other links to some great information. So thanks again. We're going to end the recording with our thanks for participating, and an invitation to contact us if you need any further information. So thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone. Been an absolute pleasure.
Absolutely. And thanks, Marco.